I love Peter and Gwen. Hang on, let me rephrase that. I love love. I love Spider-Man, and call me morbid, but I love my Spider-Man stories the way I love my Peter Parker. Miserable. Because life isn't perfect. Life can be so very, very cruel. And life as a young adult is hard. Perhaps that's why I've always felt so close to Spider-Man. The writers get it. The hardest parts of Peter Parker's life are never the physical stakes, but the emotional ones. And the one thread that can tip the scales on complicating everything or making it easy is love. At the end of the day, all you need is a good friend, a best friend, someone who gets it, and someone who wants to stick out this short and frequently miserable lifespan we have together. Someone to love you unconditionally. Romance. An amazing fantasy, I know, but it's no fantasy, it's real. Love like this exists, I know, because I feel it. And I'm reminded of why I'm so grateful I have it every time I watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Everyone talks about the chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone being the best thing about these films, and yeah, they're right.
Here comes the smolder. This is kind of an off day for me. This doesn't normally happen.
What I see in Peter and Gwen is a mature, authentic friendship, and what I feel from it are playful bickering, loving devotion, and ironic tragedy. What I see from them is that they're best friends. They're people that I care about in isolation, and that are strengthened by being together. But I guess sometimes you have to lose something to really appreciate you ever had it in the first place. Everyone knows the story of Romeo and Juliet, the star-crossed lovers who were kept apart in life but joined each other in death. It's the cruel irony of star-crossed lovers that they are destined to fail. It's the same preconception Spider-Man fans have going into any story that involves Gwen Stacy. Fans know that they are destined to fail. Gwen Stacy is, and has always been, the love interest that dies. It's perhaps Spider-Man's greatest failure in the history of the character. It sounds gross reducing Gwen to a gimmick, and in any other context it would certainly feel gross, but it doesn't. Director Marc Webb loves love. His first feature was 500 Days of Summer, a romance film about miscommunication, control, and how love dictates all. Put that in a story about a social reject, a wallflower defined by tragedy and given great power to do real good, and the story transforms itself entirely. Love is the key ingredient to any good Spider-Man story. It's such a powerful and relatable emotion. It's a powerful driving force and an equally powerful point of conflict in storytelling. And you know what? I don't think I've ever connected to romance nearly as closely as Peter and Gwen in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I know, Spider-Man movie bad because Goblin and messy studio, blah 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 blah. Yes, I get it. No, when I think of The Amazing Spider-Man, I rarely think about the films themselves. I don't think much about the plot or the villains, I think about a single word. Love. It's why, for me, the Amazing Spider-Man films are defined by Peter and Gwen's musical motifs, more so than Spider-Man's. There's a reason why TASM 2's score has topped my Spotify Wrapped 2 years in a row! Yeah, okay, no, that's sad, I see the problem now. But look, I am a thorough TASM 2 enjoyer and a vehement defender. There is a reason why my first cosplay was Andrew Garfield's second suit. There's a reason why when my local cinema did a Spider Marathon last year, I came dressed up and ready to see my boy on the big screen. But there's also a reason why coming out of that movie, I was, again, in tears. It wasn't because of all that the film did wrong, but all that it did right. It's beautifully campy, batshit insane, and has such a solid heart of love. And come on, those action scenes are top tier. I still think that it is my favorite shot Spider-Man movie of all time. And yeah, the dialogue can get messy, but I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't fun.
Just one guy. Just one Spider-Man.
Oh, woman! We're gonna go! For sure!
See, when I watch the TASM duology, I'm not seated to laugh at how stupid some of it is. There's 3 reasons why I adore these films so much. It's that chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, the music, and the direction. Weirdly, it's solely through these 3 factors that determine my love for this story. Not necessarily the story of Spider-Man, but the story of Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. Now, whether that's exactly the story Marc Webb wanted to tell or not, That's what stays with me. I feel like through creating such an intimate story of their love, rich with charm and endearment, do we see another side of Spider-Man that we had never seen before. At least, not a side ever brought to the big screen. Sam Raimi had given us a story about how Spider-Man burdened Peter's life. A story where Peter had to learn to take that weight and use it for good in spite of the bad. That endurance, that courage, that persistence, that's who Spider-Man is. Spider-Man is more than a character who fought to create a better tomorrow. He was there to save the day. That's who the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man was. But what Marc Webb did was show me how Spider-Man destroyed Peter's future. And why do I grieve it? It's just a movie. It's not real. Well, why do I love them if they're not real? This is for you, Peter and Gwen. My funny little Valentine. Marc Webb gets it. He understands love. Like there's anything to understand at all. At least, he understands love in the context of storytelling. He told the story of a breakup so well in 500 days, so what's adapting a Spider-Man story that has remained a staple of the character for 41 years? Well, he understood one simple thing. Make the audience care. Pretty simple, right? Maybe on paper, because making the audience truly care is really, really hard. And I think the best place to start is using the tone of your story to tell the audience what to feel. For example, the same guy who gave us this, gave us this. So that his roots in horror here
swallow this.
Gave him the know-how to deliver this.
Oh.
Inventing the codes that tell us that the camp serves a purpose.
Impressive!
It's to accent the brutality of the wake-up call that tells us shit just got real. That's the thing with genre directors. Give them a superhero film and their flavor dominates everything. Where Raimi approached Spider-Man with the same camp style of his horror, Webb took his strengths in real romance and imbued it into the very core of the Amazing Spider-Man. And it's real because it's not perfect. It's flawed. It's honest. It's adorable. And that's why I care about it so much. It isn't trying to be anything more than what it is. I think that Raimi is a creative genius here. He knows, to a T, the ins and outs of what makes his stories compelling. He knows that the legwork is as important in the style as it is in the substance. In many cases, that style informs substance and tells a story all of its own. When you want to touch the readers, try to be colder. It gives their grief, as it were, a background against which it stands out in greater relief. Keep what needs to be said unspoken. You know who said that? Anton Chekhov. Yeah, that Chekhov. Surely you've heard of him, or at least his story convention, the Chekhov's gun. It's a dramatic principle that states that every element in a story must be necessary, and irrelevant elements should be removed. Elements should not appear to make false promises by never coming into play. Simply pay off what you put in.
Leave Gwen out of it.
So in the same way that Raimi uses his camp to accentuate the brutality, Webb would use charm to accentuate the alienation of Peter Parker. He knows that thematically, what's as important as Peter being the lonely wallflower is who he finds himself comfortable around. And, well, he only ever smiles around a single person.
She's the girl in your computer. Yeah, he's got you on his computer. I'm his probation officer.
You know how cute this is? You know how deceptively important this is? It's a single moment where Uncle Ben has manipulated the walls Peter puts up when he can't communicate his feelings and just throws him right into the deep end.
Character. It's my uncle.
It's a simple play on emotional vulnerability where Peter's taboo crush on Gwen goes through the highest stakes it possibly could. His secret getting out. Uncle Ben's honestly the greatest playmaker in history because through this simple interaction, he's broken down those walls between these two who very clearly are pining for one another and allows their chemistry to act.
He must have seen I was touching up stuff.
Touching up stuff. Come on.
It's adorable seeing how they have this unspoken connection that they literally can't communicate, and it's very telling of how much Ben loves Peter. He's deliberately embarrassing him so that he can help him. Now that that wall's been torn down, Peter feels invincible. It's young love. We get this beautiful, real montage of Peter skateboarding. What once isolated him from his feelings now allows him to express and embrace his emotions. For the first time, he's seen. He's heard. For the first time, he's not alone. You know the best thing about Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy across these movies? Their chemistry speaks for itself. See, usually I'd advocate for shot composition, framing, just doing anything at all with the camera. But you know what?
Really?
Sure.
This is enough. Sometimes less is more, and I think the simplicity of just framing these two lovebirds in a wide shot and letting their chemistry dominate the frame speaks volumes to how their friendship places them into their own little world. Like we're just occupants in their love story. There's nothing quite so fantastic happening through the glass here. It simply speaks for itself. And that's it, you've sold me. These don't feel like characters. They don't feel like people that exist only within a fictional story. They feel like living, breathing, real people. I buy into their chemistry because it's rich with little details that say so much. The camera never assumes a perspective during conversations, only in isolation. Whether it's Peter's euphoric release of expression while skateboarding and swinging for the first time, or when he stalks Gwen post-breakup because he can't let her go. Whether it's the pace at which they talk to each other, there's such a cute, playful rapport between them. There's no hierarchy here. They flirt with one another so naturally that it's just a form of communication for them. I remember sitting in the theatre during the midnight showing of The Amazing Spider-Man, watching Andrew Garfield as this awkward, lonely, shy teenager who is angry at the world and feeling something that I had never felt in a movie before. I had felt happiness before, sadness, even anger. But what The Amazing Spider-Man had made me feel was familiarity. I had seen myself in Peter. I understood his behaviour, and people saying he never quite felt like Peter Parker as much as Tobey was something that I just couldn't understand. Sure, I could connect with Tobey's plea for a fair world. I could feel Spider-Man weighing on him, squashing his chances at a normal life. But I hadn't felt seen before. Seen for something that perhaps at the time I hadn't even noticed was a thing in my life. But there it was. It put things in perspective. It matured me. I had realised how much like Andrew's Peter I actually was, and he felt like an older brother to me. Seeing Gwen connect with him with such intimacy touched my heart. They were the same. Outside, they were one thing, but when they were together, a beautiful friendship blossomed. Something real. They were vulnerable, they made mistakes, they were honest with each other, and that touched my heart in a way nothing else ever had. Peter is a wallflower. He doesn't have a crowd or a social fraternity that he belongs to. He doesn't quite belong anywhere. He just sort of moves through space, unseen, unheard. He's angry at the world, and for the first time, he can actually do something about it. His arrogance gives him the confidence to seize his spot in the social hierarchy. And now, with his powers, that imbalance has changed for the better. Something as simple as humiliating someone who alienated him is gratifying. It's selfish, it's immature, it's honest. It's an abrasive, irresponsible misuse of his powers, but it's a chance to bite back at his own inequity. It's what anyone in his situation would do. Hell, if I had his powers in high school, you can be damn certain that I'd be using them to look cool. But that's not the lesson he should take from his gift. Peter's life is a series of bad things getting worse. He can't catch a break. The first time he gets his powers and feels like he can finally turn his life around and be the person he's always wanted to be, the popular kid, the confident kid, he loses the final father figure in his life. The good is always followed by the very, very bad. Spider-Man is a personal journey for Peter, because when he puts on that mask, he can be so much more. When first it was an outlet for grief and anger, an excuse to exact violent revenge on a cruel world that had taken from him what he loved the most, it had transformed into a projection of confidence to that same world. Because what the world needs isn't someone who's angry and bitter. It needs someone to show them that there's good.
Peter Parker, if there's one thing you are, it's good. Anyone has a problem with that can talk to me.
This moment always warms my heart, where his webline acts as an extension of his hand. It bridges the gap between Spider-Man's great power and Peter Parker's great responsibility. It's in this moment he understands who he is and what Spider-Man can be for people. It's in this moment he embraces his title of Spider-Man.
Who are you? Spider-Man.
Showing how lonely Peter was connected with me. Seeing then how he found friendship and love in the same person made me believe in love. I think there's something to be said about finding the concept of home in the right person. And, well, like they say, there's no place like home. Andrew Garfield's performance of Peter is both exhausted and enthralled. He has all the angst of a millennial. For fuck's sake, half the shit I see him do as Peter and Spider-Man are stuff that I do from the day-to-day.
Hey!
My desire to be good in this world can be traced directly to Andrew Garfield's friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Spider-Man is both freedom and a cage. It's an expression of power, but a projection of confidence. He's a wallflower, but in putting on the mask, he takes on the power of the symbol, the mantle. He is the shy Peter Parker no longer. He is instead the confident, powerful hero of New York City, Spider-Man. A man like Spider-Man has it all. Why I love Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is in this shot right here. Oh, did you miss it? Here is again. And again. Again! Again! Again!
You know what it is I love about being Spider-Man? Everything.
That, my friends, is adrenaline. That is freedom. That is Spider-Man. He swings with the joyous song of love in his heart, undisturbed by life's daily cruelty. His desire to love and be loved has been found in Gwen, and he's ready to share that euphoria with New York City. You know what? Spider-Man isn't just a responsibility or a mantle. He's a superhero. He's the best there is. He's on top of the world. He's a celebrity, king of the concrete jungle. Sam Raimi understands that. Marc Webb understands that. The opening of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 understands that. We feel the rush of adrenaline as he dives down into the street below and swings back up, commanding control over gravity like a death-defying god.
Spider-Man! Hello, pedestrians!
Hans Zimmer doesn't just give him a theme, he gives him an anthem. Spider-Man bends the city to his control. He demands its passage. New York is his playground. Whether it's saving someone in the nick of time or just remembering your name, Spider-Man is a hero of the people. I think the reason why the web swinging is so goddamn fun throughout these movies is that Marc Webb understands that swinging is freaking cool. Like, yeah, if I could pick a single superpower to have, it would be to web swing. Not fly, swing. There's a risk-reward system to it, but oh my god, the risk is adrenaline-inducing and the reward is the single most euphoric thing you would ever experience. Kind of like love, wouldn't you say? Marc Webb understands Peter's impatience. Spider-Man's traversal is an expression of freedom. Webb turns that expression of freedom into an imitation of the pendulum that swings back and forth inside a clock. The spectacle of him soaring over buildings and through streets is treated as both freeing and trapping. He can do what no other human can, but because of that, he's burdened with a purpose. With great power comes great responsibility. The opening scene is edited quickly. It slows down only when Spider-Man is trying to catch up with the bad guys. Despite his clear traversal advantage, despite all the power he possesses, he's always fighting the clock. It's a core motif of the film and an introspective look into what it's like to find your place as an adolescent. Yeah, I've just turned 21. I've got huge aspirations. I want to make films, man, and it feels like I'm fighting the clock. How do I reasonably set my milestones? How do I get that ball rolling? These are the questions that I ask myself when I'm not kept busy by the hustle of everyday life. And when those thoughts intrude, they're more often than not squashed under the heavy pressure of getting through the day, the week, the month, the year. Where will I find the time to do all that I want to do, all that I need to do to get where I need to be? Whether this is explicitly at the forefront of Marc Webb's story, or whether I'm just missing a diagnosis of some kind, it's a series of questions that I always see myself being asked through The Amazing Spider-Man. Because at its core, it's treating time as not just an obstacle or an editing device, but an active antagonist that threatens Peter in his every choice. It affects his relationship, it affects his external struggles, and hell, it's the source of his internal struggles too. And you know the thing that makes time so cruel? It's unprejudiced, it's unbiased, it's fair. Time stops for no one. Not for me, not for you, not even for Spider-Man. And so as time slowly falls between your fingers, you find yourself clinging to the only thing you think you have: control. Being as vulnerable as he is, despite all the power he has, Peter desperately tries to control the only variables in his life he has left. He's lost everything else. He has no parents, no uncle, no reputation. He can't even keep down a job. All he has is Gwen. Spider-Man's battle is against Electro, Rhino, Green Goblin, and whoever else stands to destroy Manhattan's pride. Peter Parker, though, his battle is against Spider-Man, or rather, the duality of leading two lives. His battle is against himself because Marc Webb understands one simple question about Spider-Man and storytelling in general. Who am I?
Listen to me. You're Spider-Man. And I love that. But I love Peter Parker more.
For all that Spider-Man is, Gwen loves Peter for what he isn't. He doesn't need to be swinging through the city saving the day. He doesn't need the key to the city or to be New York's hero. Just him, without all that, is enough. And I think that's really neat. It's why I fell in love with them, why everything about them feels so relatable. Why when they smile, it warms my heart. It says so much about their relationship. Hell, it says so much about the both of them independently. That he could give all that up and they'd be perfectly happy with just each other. But he can't do that, because his love is divided. What The Amazing Spider-Man 2 does for me is show us what it's like to throw a young adult into the deep end. Peter and Gwen have just graduated, and though they love each other, they've grown apart. Their chemistry is fine as ever, but there's an unspoken fragility between them. They're not out of touch with one another. No, in fact, that's exactly the problem. They know each other too well. Peter's responsibility as Spider-Man has to come first. The promise he made to Captain Stacy has to come first. On the surface, it's a selfless act to honor his dying words. The last thing he would ever say was dedicated to keeping his daughter safe. It's reasonable, tough, heartbreaking, but entirely reasonable. But is it still selfless to honor that promise despite Gwen's own wishes? Peter honors Captain Stacy's words as clearly as he honors his own promise to Uncle Ben. Both of those paternal figures died, imbuing their values onto not just the mantle of Spider-Man, but Peter Parker himself. It's another writing device that I adore. It's simple cause and effect, but when love is concerned, it's poetic. While Gwen is the future he chooses, Ben is the past that defines him. His memory, everything that he is, every value he held dear in his life lives on through Peter. And without Spider-Man, Uncle Ben dies for the final time. Within this easy clash between want and need, it adds so much drama to the already high stakes that Peter has to live with every day. It's now a discussion of control. Does Peter let his past dictate his present, or does he allow his future to recontextualize his past? For Peter to spend his life mending his own mistakes, does he deserve to live for his future? Can he forgive himself, absolve the pain of his past, and instead owe his happiness to his future with Gwen? Is that even his call to make? His stubbornness to take control literally haunts him. He sees the face of the person he's knowingly disgracing by breaking his promise. Maybe he can have it both ways. Maybe he can have Gwen and Spider-Man. Maybe this time it'll be different. It all leads back to the question, am I for them?
You have done this to me again and again. I can't live like this. I break up with you.
This is where the film feels most human to me. This film gets it. And where does Peter turn to immediately? His escape, his outlet, his cage.
Good morning, New Yorkers.
He does what I do when I'm uncertain or having life relationship problems. I throw myself into my work. Hey, I know things are rough right now. Life feels so cluttered. I'm scared for my future. Honestly, it terrifies me. But the one thing I keep coming back to is you. I don't know what the future holds, but what I do know is I want you there. I can't do this without you. We can do so much together. We can go so far. Or we can do nothing at all. But we'll do that together too. Nothing is as romantic, nothing is as powerful as those three words. Gwen is his anchor through all of this. She is the one variable that he keeps coming back to. With such a conflicted life burdened by superheroism and a plea to escape the stacking anxiety of the normal everyday life, how can he possibly find the time to... Peter finally learns what's in his control. Though he can't control Gwen, he can control his own actions. Their lives may lead them down different paths, but Peter knows that he can compromise. His promise to Ben isn't a promise to New York, it's a promise to himself, and he can take that anywhere. With great power comes great responsibility. In a recontextualization, his love is that power. It's his responsibility to follow where it leads him, and all paths lead to Gwen. With a renewed understanding of his moral compass, Peter vows, wherever you go, I will follow. We get the satisfaction of seeing the characters finally choose each other. What's so wrong with being a little selfish? For the first time, maybe ever, Peter is putting his needs first. What he needs is Gwen. But as the most impactful stories go, let your character achieve their desire.
We've all got to make a choice. Right? Why choose you?
And make it the worst thing that ever happened to them. The good is always followed by the very, very bad. Don't plant any false promises. It's the small things that hurt the most. The way they walked, the way their perfume smelt, the way they smiled, never being able to look into their eyes again and telling them 3 simple words. Fuck. This destroys me.
Stay with me, stay with me. Stay with me, stay with me. You stay with me.
There's not a single time this doesn't get me. Even knowing this was coming, this was what heartbreak looked like. It just wasn't fair. I know Gwen died in the comics, but why did she have to die here? Now, When I cared so much about her, about them? Why can't they just be together? Why must life complicate that? What's the price of loving someone who the world dictates isn't for you? Isn't loving someone just enough? Isn't our happiness enough? Why does this need to be a Greek tragedy? If only... If only... I could switch off the movie here and it would all be fine. Maybe they'll move to England and grow old together. Maybe this time it will be different. Why am I cursed with knowing how it ends? Why do I have to feel it so much? Because Marc Webb gets it. There is nothing as haunting as a memory. I think the hardest thing for me to grapple with in a story is legacy. What we leave behind. What people remember us by. What we stood for. Legacy is the cruel irony of storytelling because it's from the pursuit of creating a legacy that we find tragedy in our favourite characters in fiction. The what should have been, the once upon a time, the fairy tale that our lives are perfect, but we're human. We make mistakes. We're illogical and emotional. We're not perfect. Being unable to slow that clock terrifies me. It terrifies me that one day I might exist while the people I love won't. I know that because I've been there. I've felt that, and I don't want to feel it ever again. I don't think there's a worse thing. You want to make me cry? Give me a story about a person who wants something, who needs something, completion, identity, love, and have them cut short of their greatest desire. The simplicity of something amazing that is within their power but taken away from them unfairly. That's legacy. That's what we leave behind. That's the most human thing. I think the reason why I take this loss so hard is because fundamentally, Marc Webb understands that golden story device from before. If you want to touch your readers, keep what needs to be said unspoken. If I tell you to feel sad about someone dying, you can't. But if I can paint a picture of what they meant, what they stood for, and make you care, then their absence is enough. Webb, like Raimi, uses tone to show how good these two people are together, and how hollow the world feels without them. That image is enough. We get so used to the comfortability and warmness of Peter and Gwen's flirting that when she's gone, we too are left with this void. This uncomfortable pit of sorrow. It places us closer to Peter and allows us to grieve with him. It's heartbreak like no other. It's a sad song, but we sing it anyway, hoping that maybe this time it will be different. Orpheus and Eurydice, Romeo and Juliet. Things aren't beautiful because they last, and that sentiment of the what if is what I love about Peter and Gwen. Peter Parker isn't the reason Uncle Ben died, but he suffered for it. Peter Parker let Captain Stacy in, and it cost him his life. Peter Parker didn't let Gwen die. Spider-Man killed Gwen Stacy. This moment always breaks my heart, where his webline acts as an extension of his hand. It bridges the gap between Spider-Man's great power and Peter Parker's great responsibility. It's in this moment he understands who he is and what Spider-Man can do to the people he loves. It's in this moment he renounces his title of Spider-Man. The mask is a friend no longer. All it reminds him of is his pain, of Gwen. Is this video essay a celebration or an obituary? Spider-Man was never about Peter. It can't be. It has to be something greater. Despite the pain, despite the loss, we have to move forward. We have to be greater than what we suffer. If not for our sake, for theirs. For what they stood for. And finally, for who we're meant to be.
I'm gonna take care of this, Jake. You go take care of your mom, okay? Alright, get out of here. Go. Go.
Can I just say, this feels the most Spider-Man thing to me. Like, this little interaction here. He's the big brother looking out for the little guy. He's always there to save the day. But he's also there to save your day. His friendly neighborhood, it's who he is. He helps people regardless of his pain, regardless of his grief, and regardless of what putting on the red and blue post-mortem means to him. He's always going to have his hand on your shoulder. That is what Spider-Man is. That might not be what Peter believes it may be anymore, but that's what it needs to be. Peter needs to move forward. Time stops for no one. And even if we fail, what better way is there to live? But that's the thing about progress. It isn't linear.
I lost Gwen. She was my MJ. I couldn't save her.
I think the reason why I love Peter and Gwen is because they are strengthened by a 3-act structure. TASM 1, TASM 2, and No Way Home. Right from the bat, No Way Home establishes 2 things for Andrew. That he's the same lovable, excitable science nerd and kid at heart that we all love. And that, despite his efforts, he's still grieving. Humour accentuates vulnerability. It's a turn on the audience by saying, hey, here's something you're familiar with, let's revisit that fun, by contrasting it with an equally mature discussion on his grief.
At some point, I stopped pulling my punches. I got rageful. I got bitter.
It's a cruel way to depart Andrew's Spider-Man, knowing that his story ended with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, knowing that his story was buried with Gwen. It's poetic, it's beautiful, but it's sad. It's exceptionally compelling, but it's not the story that we should take away from Spider-Man. And what we see from Andrew's return now years later is this revisit to a character that feels both familiar and real. Grief isn't straightforward. Moving on doesn't always mean moving forward. And I think this vulnerability in Andrew's Spider-Man being in a safe space to express that with fellow Spider-Men, his brothers, gives so much more to his story. There's a beautiful kinship he's found in sharing his pain with people who get it. And the realest part about it is that he's honest. Yeah, he vowed to honour Gwen's memory with his heroism as Spider-Man, but that's an incredibly selfless thing to do when he suffered so much and had so little to take away from any of it. He's real because his suffering is selfish. His anger is selfish. He said it himself, and fighting the good battle as Spider-Man doesn't absolve him of his blame any less. Not to him. He's still perpetually haunted by that moment all those years ago, and moving on doesn't mean getting better. Now he's faced with another version of himself who lost his Aunt May and blames himself too. A pain he's familiar with, a burden he feels at his very core. That feeling of unresolve. And in that moment, he remembers who he's meant to be.
She told me that with great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben said it the day he died.
He knows he has to help him. Peter Parker helps people. It's what he does.
Maybe she didn't die for nothing, Peter.
It's cruel irony that for all of Spider-Man's great power, even he kneels before the great foot of time itself. That's something he can't control. None of us can. Perhaps that's why he's so relatable. Maybe that's why I care about him. It's not often you get a second chance. When he catches MJ, he gets to say 3 words that he's been longing to say.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
In that moment, he didn't catch MJ. He caught his Gwen. Peter is a character who doesn't have to be defined by tragedy, and I think that's exactly the moral of this story. He's someone who has lost so much and yet finds the best part of himself through it all. It's not perfect, it's not linear, and that's why I love it. It's real. I guess sometimes you have to lose something to really appreciate you ever had it in the first place. To me, this is all that Spider-Man is. He's greater than what he suffers, and that's such an important lesson for all of us. But without feeling the intense weight, the soul-crushing misery of Gwen's death, not watching it but feeling it, I don't think I ever would have even cared about what they could have been. Where first a catch would give Peter the power to become Spider-Man, at last a catch would give Peter the power to forgive himself. Even if you can just save one person, and it's yourself, that's enough. Call it a payoff, call it poetic justice, call it whatever you want. I think that that's pretty neat. You see, I've come to believe that things have to get really, really bad before they can get good. Not even really good, although I wouldn't mind some of that. I guess when you look at the way Peter and Gwen's story played out, it's about the only way you can look at it. Good follows bad. Kind of amazing. I love love. And yeah, it kinda fucking hurts. If I'd known how it was gonna end, would have I ever have done it in the first place? Why do we care if we know how it ends? Is it punishment? Or perhaps the greatest gift of all? Is it better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all? Are we punished for caring or compelled for loving? Heartbroken by what could have been or enriched by what we did have? Caring about these people is a gift. Tragedy doesn't have to define us, for we are greater than what we suffer. God, I often wonder that nothing would hurt more than seeing these two go their separate ways for the final time. Then I just remember how painful it was to see them choose each other, and in the end for it to only go the worst way possible. Gwen's departure doesn't feel shallow, because in the same way that Peter feels punished for his actions, so do we for investing in them.
I'm gonna take one last look, and I'm gonna put it where it belongs.
This story has helped me process so much grief, so much anger. It's helped me think about where I can put all that. It's helped me think about what I'm living for, and it helps me answer my own question. Am I for them? Is my own passage to grieve enough? Do I spend my life mending my mistakes? Or do I deserve to live for my future? Is that the time already? I guess I didn't realize, well, how long I'd been talking. Maybe that's what happens in a love story. You can't tell it too fast. I guess when I try to sum up how I feel sometimes around this time of year, I feel blue. You never know how long you have left, and so much of what we feel remains unspoken. So this Valentine's Day, tell the people closest to you, I love you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching. This project was actually a huge labor of love that I've been working on for months, and I just didn't get around to doing it until now, and I feel like I could articulate myself well enough, so I hope that it resonated with you as much as it did me. It was a lot of fun to make, and I hope that that reflects. A big thank you to all of my supporters over on Patreon, especially my executive producers, Eric Shun and Alyssa and Daisy. Thank you very much. Please leave a comment down below what you'd like to see next. It helps my channel get pushed through YouTube's messy algorithm. There is also a scene from this video that I deleted for pacing, but it is available on Patreon, so if you'd like to go watch that, you're welcome to go join for just as low as $1 a month. And I've actually created 2 Spotify playlists of music that I feel like reflects Peter during the Amazing Spider-Man 2 to No Way Home time period. It's, you know, songs that I listen to while writing the script, resonates with me, and if you'd like to go check those out, there's a link below in the description. And so as always, thank you for watching, and please stick around for more content because there's more videos coming this year. Thank you very much.